What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of the Super Sports Bros. I'm Chris.
I'm Anthony.
Now let's get right into it. Last night we had a third Islanders-Rangers matchup. The first two we saw the Islanders winning handedly. You know, it was what? What was the score? It was like 4-1.
4-1 and a shutout in the one
Yeah,
before.
the shutout in the one before that. And then last night the Islanders blew two-goal leads. Three two-goal leads. I just had two in my mind because it was two goals.
Right.
But and they wound up losing 6-5.
Yeah.
So, in the beginning, it looked like it was Isles all the way.
Right.
Like, I saw the beginning of the game, and the Islanders, they're up 2-0 right off the bat.
Right. The Rangers had a really difficult time controlling the puck. Cam Talbot basically handed John Tavares the opening goal within the first 11 seconds.
Exactly.
And had the Coliseum rocking very early. But lately, what we've seen with the Islanders is they get 2-goal leads early. It's been consistent in their last 4 or 5 games, where they get 2-goal leads early and they get way too comfortable and way too tentative. And in the past, they've been able to close out games like 3-2, maybe 4-2, but they'd also been playing lesser teams. This is the first time in a while since the Okposo injury that they played some really challenging teams, like the Rangers in particular. And it's just a little unsettling to see for the Islanders to really seem to be way too comfortable with the 2-goal lead. It seems like they really want to tack on and get 3 or 4 goals, and they forget to play defense and get back in their zone.
Yeah, and that really showed towards the end of the game because that's where the Rangers really outplayed
the end of the
Islanders.
game, with the exception of one breakaway, it was all Rangers.
Exactly.
All Rangers. They were controlling the puck in both sides of the zone. The Islanders, even with a man advantage at the end of the game, Josh Bailey had a good shot off the post, but that was really their one chance to try and tie it 6-6. And the momentum was completely with the Rangers at that point. But you saw how dangerous the Rangers can be and why they were in the Stanley Cup last year.
Yeah.
And that's because they do the dirty stuff.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, it was a great game. And the Rangers have scored more consistently without Lundqvist in. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, they've had more goals. It seemingly, I don't have any numbers, but it's seemingly every score I check with the Rangers is more goals than usual. And back with Lundqvist, they would win games seemingly 2-1, 3-2. Now they're scoring 4 or 5. Last night, 6 goals, and both teams had an onslaught of shots in last night's matchup. But the Rangers' offense has really understood the situation in Lundqvist's injury and found ways to win.
So how I look at it, the Rangers are kind of overcompensating for Lundqvist not being in goal. They try to get a little bit more of a
I'd be
security
lying
blanket.
if I wasn't a little afraid of when they get Lundqvist back and how they have the playoff experience, whereas the Islanders do not. But more than anything, everyone in New York wants this Islanders-Rangers playoff matchup to
I'd love
happen.
to see it.
And the Islanders, and so far the Islanders, they're up 2-1 against them on the year. The Rangers showed a lot of heart, winning, 6-5, unbelievable game. Even though I think the Islanders played well, they just didn't play consistently, and the Rangers didn't either. The Rangers just were playing better at the better times later in the game. But it was one for the ages, and I'll be there with bells on in March, ready to watch the next one at the Coliseum.
I mean, it's definitely a matchup to look forward to in March because these two teams, especially this game, like they're playing so hard against each other. It didn't show by the score of the last 2 games, but the Rangers still put up a fight against the Islanders, regardless in those 2 games.
Halak played better in those other 2 games for sure.
So now, moving on from one team that plays in the Garden to the other team that plays in the Garden, New York Knicks. Last week we talked about James Dolan and all the BS he got himself caught into. Although now he's claiming that he will respond to all fans.
I gotta email him. I really do plan on emailing James Dolan in a way that's professional but firm. That's what I'm going for.
But a little more, specifically with the Knicks, Amar'e Stoudemire. The Knicks and Amar'e met they actually had a buyout agreement.
Yeah.
So they bought out the rest of his contract. Amar'e wanted out.
The Knicks didn't want him. It was mutual. It
Yeah.
wasn't Amar'e being a prima donna or anything like that. It was a situation where the Knicks didn't want to use him, and Amar'e only has so many years left, and they said, hey, you know what? You want to go to a winning team? We'll pay out for you.
Yeah.
You go ahead and go there.
Now, is this the right move, you think, for the Knicks?
It was an inevitable move. Whether it was right or wrong, they didn't have much choice in the matter. It was a foolish contract to begin with, a 5-year, $100 million deal for a guy that had a history of injuries. And
he continued with his injuries while he
If
was on the Knicks.
Now, people are going to remember the injuries. People are going to remember the weird incidents like the fire hydrant, not the fire hydrant, the fire extinguisher that he hit as he went into the locker room, and his inability to stay healthy. But in my opinion, that would be disrespectful to the man that really exemplified a lot of courage in coming to a forgotten franchise in 2010, and someone that always had a lot of pride, someone that always worked hard. That first year there, he had a Knicks record for consecutive games of 30 or more points a game. So this guy was the real deal when he first came there, and they gave away a lot to get Carmelo, and then his injuries came at the same time, and then all of a sudden it was just Carmelo.
Yes.
And they had a good hoorah that one year when they won 50-something games, but we all know how that ended, and Amar'e got hurt again. So it was a good run, but we wish him the best.
And when Amar'e first came to the Knicks, and he was scoring 30+ points a game consistently,
and 10 rebounds.
It looked like they were getting what they paid for.
Yeah.
But in the end, how he finished his time with the Knicks was 17.3 points per game and 6.7 rebounds with the Knicks.
That's not what they paid for.
That's not $100 million worth.
And that's including that 1 year of good statistics. If you take that 1 year out, the last 3 years that they've been paying him, it's bad.
He'd probably be under 15 points per game if that was the case.
He missed 33% of the games that he was here for. It was 1 out of 3 games, something like that. He was hurt for. So that's just not enough time on the court. He could bathe in all the red wine he wants. It's just at a point in his career where he's not the same guy. So if he can come and give you 10, 15 minutes, which is what he's going to do with the Dallas Mavericks, that's something you can look forward to. His defense has never been that great, but they're not going to look to him for defense. They have Tyson Chandler for that. And that's another good thing, is Tyson Chandler and Amar'e Stoudemire are reunited. And I think that those two guys showed the most heart for the Knicks in recent years.
Yeah, I know you touched on our next idea. He did buy out with the Knicks, and then he said that he's agreed to become a Dallas Maverick. Right. And that's a really good team to begin with.
They're ready to make a run.
You got Dirk, you got Rajon Rondo, you got Tyson Chandler down there. So, it's Stat into the mix, even if Stat's coming off the bench or something like that.
He will.
You have a good, well-rounded team right there. He doesn't have the best defense, but guys on that team do have good defense. As you said, Chandler exemplifies.
He's the anchor.
Yeah. He's the anchor of that defense. He didn't have a great year in New York last year, but the year before that, he won Defensive MVP.
Right, but I think that even in that year where he didn't have a great year scoring, the Knicks, the obvious gaping hole in the Knicks defense is the departure of Chandler. Yes. And that's why already the rumors are for Okafor, just any type of big man that the Knicks can get. It reminds me of Patrick Ewing in 1985, where they were just so desperate for some sort of size.
Yeah, whether it's Okafor, whether it's Marc Gasol, they're looking to big men in the offseason. We all know this.
We can talk about free agents all we want, but if I'm a free agent, I don't want to go to the Knicks.
No, and the Knicks are in a tough situation, especially after this season ends, because they're going to need to figure out how they're going to get better. And hopefully Jackson can, kind of right the ship and get them going in the right direction.
Good news is it's hard to get much worse, so hopefully they'll be at least
I guess that's a good way to look at it, I guess.
It actually has never been worse, so hopefully.
Now, moving on from basketball, we got some baseball news to talk about, pitchers and catchers.
3 days for the Mets, I think.
3 days.
For the Mets are 3 days. I don't know what
I think the Yankees might be a day after or something like that. I know that all the stuff's down in Tampa.
A lot of Mets pitchers are down there.
The players down there, I don't know. But going into spring training, pitchers and catchers are the first to report. Now, the Mets and Yankees are very different in how their rotations are looking right now.
Yeah.
The Mets have 9 pitchers that could potentially start?
Right. They have 9 starting pitchers on their roster.
And the Yankees have, I think, 6, and 4 of them are question marks, in my opinion.
The Mets have a lot of question marks as well, but those are just the 9 arms. That the fact that the Mets have 9 arms is something within itself to either wonder why they didn't do anything, or are they going to move guys to the bullpen, or are guys' innings going to be limited? And the answer to probably all of those things is yes, hopefully. But I'm a little less. I wouldn't be sold that they're going to trade anyone, but I think it's something they should do.
Yeah, because when you have 9 pitchers like that, you have to do something with them. Whether it's get some more power in the bullpen, or get someone in return. Like shortstop is a gaping hole. Can you figure something out for a shortstop?
Let's think. Well, if you break down each pitcher, every situation is a little different. Colon is old, and he's a pretty, in my opinion, he's a pretty average pitcher.
He would be, I think, my top.
I'm not a huge. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a huge Colon fan.
I'm saying he'd be my number 1 to move to the bullpen or something like that for a mid-range.
The guy who's 40 is not moving to the bullpen. He's retiring before that. But I think that The problem with him is there are some. He's not in good shape. Number one, and the
Mm-hmm.
problem with his is when he comes into games where he's not doing well, he'll just quit. He'll just not want to be there. And you could tell by the second or third inning that the game's busted over. So he'll hit guys. He clunked him twice. I think it was against the Nationals last year. He hit 2 guys in a row just to get ejected and go shower. It was pretty sad. But Harvey is the big name everyone's going to talk about. Harvey's coming back, but he's another question mark. Are they going to limit his innings?
He said,
Who knows?
2 Tommy John surgeries now?
DeGrom's coming off Rookie of the Year. He had an amazing year, but can you expect that in a second, sophomore slump?
If you do get that in his second year, then
It'd be pretty
you definitely have that.
If you get half of that in the second year, it should be good. Wheeler has been very erratic, but he seems to finally be settling down. And then after that, there's a lot of young arms. Syndergaard has not been with the team yet. Neither has Steven Matz, the Long Islander, who a lot of Met fans are looking forward to. And Rafael Montero finally started settling down, but he's also another young pitcher with a lot of great potential. And I have to think if I'm missing anyone. How many I named? I don't think I named all 9.
Well, I mean, you got a good amount of them.
Right. So the point is that there's a ton of arms on this team. Nice was the one I missed. Nice and G, the other two. Thank you. Nice, G. The latest rumor is G to the bullpen. And he doesn't want to go to the bullpen. You shouldn't move stars around like that. I don't think it's a good idea. You need to either clean up their roster to a way where maybe get some hitters or maybe a shortstop, which is something the Mets fans have been dying for
since they've had Jose Reyes. They have
Wilmer Flores. I would love to have Reyes back, funny enough, but Wilmer Flores, 23, 24, around there, he still is pretty unproven. So there could be a lot of hope there. But there's just too many hopeful situations for the Mets.
I feel like that's every year. There's a lot of hopeful situations.
David Wright won't get hurt. Maybe. Curtis Granderson's going to bat higher, probably, but he also is going to strike out a ton, which is what you knew when you signed the guy. Lucas Duda is still getting better. Maybe. Travis d'Arnaud is going to display more consistency. Also a maybe. So this Mets lineup could either be really good or could be awful. So it makes sense to add some sort of batters that aren't Kadire or whoever. Yeah. Whoever guy they signed that didn't even matter. Mayberry and Kadire. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Kadire, I think, is he'll do fine.
No. It reminds me a lot of the Chris Young signing last year that just for no reason.
He worked out for the Yankees. So
you're telling me? Yeah, but the Mets paid him $7 million.
Yeah, they did
1 year. For him. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And then on the flip side, the Yankees. It's going to be your first season without Derek Jeter. You have all these pitchers come back. You have CC coming back. Huge question mark. The last, 2-3 years he's been hurt.
Right.
You have Hiroki Kuroda's gone. He's going back to Japan. You have Tanaka coming off Tommy John surgery. Will he be the guy that they gave all this money to? Will he be the guy that he was before he got hurt?
Is he expected to be ready to go in April?
I believe he's ready. He's expected to be ready to go for the start of the season.
That's skeptical.
You have Ivan Nova, another question mark. He's someone who's gotten injured last year. I think he had Tommy John surgery last year too. You have Michael Pineda, who's
hopefully he won't cheat.
Hopefully he won't cheat, and hopefully he won't get hurt because he was hurt last year and the year before that too. And then you have who's the guy the lefty, Chris Capuano. He's the only one I think that
ex-Met.
He's not particularly a question mark, but where does he fit in the rotation? He's probably towards the end of the rotation guy, but he did do very well for the Yankees last year. I think after they got him in the trade, I think it was with the Dodgers they got him from. So I mean, I do have hope. But at the same time, there's too many question marks in the starting rotation. And, is Didi Gregorius going to be the guy at shortstop? Will it be Brendan Ryan? Who knows who's going to be the shortstop?
Right.
And then second base, a lot of people want Rob Snyder to come up. Is it time for him to come up? Is it time for them to have some homegrown talent, come up into the team aside from Brett Gardner? I think he's the only guy that you got on the starting roster.
I'm going to make you cringe for a moment, but I think that a rumor was, why not put A-Rod back at short since there's his natural position? No one really wants A-Rod to follow Jeter in that ridiculous, that poor man, even if it's the nicest guy in the world, that stinks to have to try and follow a guy like Derek Jeter.
No one wants to follow up Derek Jeter. No one wants to fill those shoes. It's going to be too hard.
Right, but as far as your better lineup and better guys you can have, A-Rod at shortstop kind of makes sense. Especially because he's played there before.
He has, but at the same time, they also said that they just plan on using him to be DH this year, kind of an Ortiz situation where he's just the DH and doesn't play in the field.
Well, that's easy to say now when everyone's healthy.
Well, I know they had said that a month or two ago.
Right.
I remember hearing that, but who knows?
My point is he's going to be in the field at some point.
He will, and I'm not denying that.
And if the Yankees are willing to swallow their pride and let the man play and not buy out his contract, you should at least give your team the best chance to win.
And now, since you mentioned A-Rod, we might as well move on to A-Rod's apology.
Right.
He had this big apology that he was supposed to have at Yankee Stadium.
That was weird. He was supposed to announce it and then made it a letter.
And he just made a letter.
Yeah.
And he basically took all the blame for everything that happened. And I'm a huge Yankee fan, but in my opinion, the time for apologies was when he first got caught. Not instead of saying, oh, I didn't do it, and then getting all these issues. I think that the time for apologies is past due.
Tony Bosch was sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Yeah, he was. Mm-hmm. But A-Rod's time for apologies has passed, in my opinion. It's too hard for him at this point in time to get in the better graces of Yankee fans.
Right. I don't think that should even be his best interest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that even is his best interest. And there's one line that stood out to me the most in the letter. He said, "I've served the longest suspension in MLB history. I'm just ready to play some ball." And to me, the Yankees should have bought out his contract a while ago.
Yeah.
But they're stubborn, and they want to prove that the money they invested in A-Rod will at least give them some sort of benefit. It's very similar to Amar'e, only Amar'e was not a cheater. I guess it's just a contract that should never have happened, is what I meant by it. For too much money for a guy
for 10 years
past his prime. Yeah. So, in my opinion, A-Rod said that the best way at the end of it is just, I need to move on and just play some ball. And if he can help the Yankees in any way, people will tolerate him. Mm-hmm. It's really just a matter of how good he's going to be able to be. And I'm not convinced he's going to be good at all.
No, I'm not convinced he's going to be good at all either.
But that's really ultimately what it comes down to. There is nothing he can say that will make people like him better at this point. No, not a thing.
The letter he wrote,
he's just following the rules. He's just it's obligatory. Like, how is he supposed to say anything that can revive your feelings of him? It's just not going to happen.
I mean,
the guy, I remember back when he was hated by everyone but Yankee fans. Mm. And I hated him during the series, the Red Sox series, where he hit the ball out of the glove. It was these little things that always bothered me about him. Not even so much the steroids. Tons of people have taken steroids and lied about it. Tons. Mm-hmm. So or the time he was heading to third, the Yankees in a little bit of a slump, and he yelled, "I got it," which should have been out. That's technically runner's interference. It's a kind that not many umpires know about, but he should have been out. But he does these little things constantly to get a slight edge, and that's why cheating, fit him perfectly. But now, if he can do anything to help a Yankees team that is not expected to do that well, it's expected to be a pretty mediocre ball club. I think that's the memo amongst most teams.
That's putting it lightly, in my opinion.
I think that's what they're going to finish, especially because they come from a tough division. Mm. But also, he just needs to help in any way he can. If he can win them a game or do something for them, the attitude around Yankee fans will be like, all right, whatever. If you win, whatever. That's all it's ever been about with Yankee fans. Is if you can do something to help us win, there's a place for you.
And who knows what's going to happen? Who knows how good he's going to be? I don't think he's going to be, what. No. He's not going to be what the contract is.
It's going to be a disaster, in my opinion.
And they should have bought him out the second that, he got in trouble. When right. They were talking about suspending him for, 50 games, 100, like, that's when you say, you know what, we're going to buy out your contract or reach some sort of agreement because you don't want to deal with the circus. You don't want to deal with all this, and you can use that money elsewhere. Granted, there are no salary caps in baseball, but at the same time, you don't want to be overspending for too many players.
It's more, to me, Yankees and money, it's always been too much. The Yankees right now are at this point where they overpaid all these guys. In the World Series of 2009, they paid top dollar for that World Series. And a lot of guys that are still lingering around from that, CC Sabathia in particular, are not who they used to be, and they still have to pay them. Mm. It's the Yankees have always acted and behaved like a New York market, and the Mets in recent years have completely evaporated from that. And granted, there have been a lot of teams that rebuild the right way and don't re-sign the guys for the megabucks. Got teams in the National League like the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Francisco Giants, yes. I almost said 49ers. That's why I started. San Francisco Giants, they never pay that guy that top dollar over the top contract. Mm. And they're always in the picture. So I think Mets are trying to be more like that and be dependent on the young arms, but they're not doing it right. They have to go back to acting like a New York market and get the guys that they need in the lineup and spend a fair amount of money because contrary to popular belief, the Mets have the money. There's not, like, if there's any person that believes, oh, this made-up Ponzi scheme, oh, they're just trying to save money, the Wilpons won, okay? They have the money. They're like, maybe Citi Field was made off some sort of counterfeit Ponzi scheme money. Probably. Paper that didn't exist, counterfeit's not the right word, but money that didn't exist was, hypothetically, it was just too many loans. If you break it down, it's a very difficult, long, complex story. But the point is this: the Wilpons have the money, but instead they have a manager like Terry Collins and a general manager like Sandy Alderson. Are just two guys that are just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Collins got fired by the Houston Astros. Been out of baseball for years. And now he's the guy. Why is he the guy? Why is he a New York guy? I mean, it made sense when they were not expected to do well. But if we want to be a winning team, I think the Mets are actually looking for any reason to get rid of Terry Collins soon.
Mm-hmm.
He's hanging by his last thread because you can't be the same subpar, slightly below 500, slightly above 500 team for 5 years, which is what it's been. So that's the negatives about the Mets: is the management and the ownership. And the false sense of hope that just seems to be around this team every year. Yeah. But I'd be lying if I don't feel confident when I look at this arsenal of arms that they have, but they're not being handled right. If they move these guys around constantly into the pen and this and that, it's going to be a distraction. It's going to be a problem. They need to establish things early and get ready to start. And above all, the one thing the Mets need to do, which really is a concern, is beat the Nationals. Can they beat the Nationals? That's a pretty big if. Pretty big if. And I know the Nationals just pay top dollar for sure. I'm not even worried about that. I just worry that the Mets can't hit guys that they already have, like Gio Gonzalez, and they do okay against Strasburg, but they can't beat the Nationals.
The Nationals last year, they one of the best teams in the NL.
Them. Last year they annihilated them. The Mets need good years from David Wright and Curtis Granderson, and they need Juan Lagares to stay healthy. And those are just so many large, it's just so unlikely for all those things to happen. And the Yankees are in a similar situation where they need all these hypothetical things to happen. And it's because they have all these guys sitting around on the latter years of their contract. Even Derek Jeter on his departure last year was in a ridiculous contract situation. That 4-year deal they gave him. They need to find a way to get guys at the right price in the right situation, but fast in the New York market that we all expect.
Well,
both teams have been screwing that up.
Now moving on from, ranting and bad news and,
maybe it'll work out. Hope springs eternal. That's how baseball is.
Let's go to some good news for the Yankees at least. 3 numbers are getting retired this year. You have Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, and Andy Pettitte.
There are rumors of Mike Piazza being retired for the Mets, as well as Keith Hernandez and Doc Gooden.
So all 6 of these players
might have been Gary Carter than Doc Gooden, but I think Carter not so much because he wasn't mostly a Met. But.
And all these 6 players, they're all deserving of that honor, in my opinion. For the Yankees, Bernie Williams was probably my favorite Yankee growing up behind Derek Jeter. I loved Bernie Williams when he was on the team.
Pretty soon the Yankees are going to have to start putting letters
or hundreds or something.
Or some sort of Morse code or something, some hieroglyphic on the back of their jersey. They're running out of numbers.
They have no more single digits available.
They are running out of numbers. That's ridiculous.
1 through 9 are all retired, except 2 for the time being until they decide to retire.
Even though Bernie Williams is a fan favorite, I think it's ridiculous to retire his number. If you're going to compare him to the names of the Yankees have to hold a higher standard for retired numbers. The Mets haven't retired a player since Tom Seaver. It's really hard to get your number retired. I feel like the Yankees are just so excited to do it half the time. Derek Jeter should have his number retired, absolutely. But a guy like Bernie Williams, is he in the same class as all of those guys? He was part of great teams, but we're talking Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, just these iconic baseball players. Those are the numbers that they're being compared with. Is it really the same thing?
They do what they want. They feel that he's deserving of it, and that's why he gets it. And Posada and Pettitte were both part of the core 4 along with Jeter.
I hate to be really bitter, but I can't help but feel it's just a way to get more fans at the ballpark for some sort of ceremony to see their favorite player.
Who knows?
Who knows that is why. They make it, more people go to ball games this way, especially if the team's not doing so good.
It is kind of weird that it is during the year that they're probably not going to get the biggest turnouts in the past.
Coincidence?
But, potentially.
I think not.
But I mean, you look at Posada and Pettit. They were both part of the core four. You get Jeter, Posada, Pettit, and Rivera. They were the four guys that were together for 5 World Series championships. So I mean,
Pettit juiced.
Pettit did juice, and that's the only one in this group that's a little bit of a question.
If that makes things awkward for the Hall of Fame, why isn't it awkward for individual franchises? I don't know. It just gets so weird. It's political when you talk about guys on steroids. I'm actually on the side that we should just forget all these guys that took steroids and just give them their honors and just make sure it says that on their plaque. Mm-hmm. Maybe have a nice needle next to their name, or like some sort of just in like glistening like steroid user. It's just like and then specify the years that they played in the era where they probably were on steroids. That's just me. But I don't think they would ever go through with all that. I think that would be the most fair thing. Like, hey, Barry Bonds, home run king, but look at the scroll at the bottom of the page. Like, you ever see
put the little asterisk next to it.
Yeah, exactly.
At the bottom, asterisk, used performance enhancing drugs or something like that.
I know I'm joking, but I'm also serious. I think they should totally do that. It would just get all of this out of the way, and then franchises like the Yankees can just retire all the guys they want, or any type of anyone who is speculatively on steroids can just be honest. Like, stop lying. Like,
now moving on to round out our 4 big sports that we talk about on the show, we're moving on to NFL. Yeah, NFL
right.
Super Bowl was a few weeks ago, but the Combine's coming up, and
it's already the off season. We're already looking at it next year.
Free agency starts soon in just under a month.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Combine next month. You have the draft in a month and a half. What kind of talks have you been hearing through the grapevine? What kind of speculations do we have on this?
The last thing I heard
so
is kind of a funny story. Is there's a picture of Jameis Winston. I don't know if you saw this, and he was doing some sort of training with his shirt off, right? Mm-hmm. And he just had this huge gut, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's eating all these crab legs. What is he doing? He's out of control." It was hilarious. The comments were, and people were like putting on Instagram, Twitter. This guy was getting ridiculed, and the trainer that was in the photo was like, "Hey, idiots." In this specific training thing they're doing, he has a rope and a belt, literally lifting all his weight up. So he didn't even look normal. He looked like his gut was like up here. So Winston's never been like super skinny. He's actually part of why he's good is he's got some real girth to him. But like, it was hilarious how quick people are willing to run out of guys out of town and affect their draft stock. So that's what it tells you. Like, anything you do, anything you post, anything you are is going to affect your draft stock.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, when it comes to, it's very early in the offseason still.
Right.
It's not full free agency mode.
On the topic of Winston, do you think he's going to go number 1 overall?
I don't think he's deserving of the first overall pick.
For his off-the-field antics and...
Because I know a lot of times when they talk about the draft, one of the biggest things is...
inability to speak,
exactly.
Those things.
A lot of times off-the-field, situations and instances... factor into, if they're worthy of the first overall pick. Because, you draft someone first overall, they're your guy. They're someone that you want to play for you and you want to represent your team.
I think we can both agree that if we could have any... number 1 pick is usually a quarterback. So if we have any belief that it should be a quarterback this year, the guy should be Marcus Mariota.
I completely agree with that.
Heisman winner. You have to worry about the Heisman winner, but because for some reason they don't always pan out. But I just think that he is the classiest, hardworking, fundamentally sound, great representative of the next generation of speedy quarterbacks that extend plays. He's your guy if you really want him. I think absolutely. I'd rather have him than Jameis Winston.
Yep.
Winston may even have a higher ceiling, but the security in the Mariota pick and the fact that you'll probably still get what you wanted out of him, in my opinion, is more realistic.
No, I think he's a better pick than Winston is.
Right.
I mean, last year, everyone was saying, "Oh, Johnny Manziel, will he be good in the NFL?" And I think then he had all the off the field issues that he had in college. So I mean, you take that as an example. I mean, it's a little bit more of a drastic example.
I think Manziel's incident. I think the judgment on Manziel is a little bit premature. Guy played 3 games, and yeah, he has off the field issues, and yes, he's in rehab, and that's for drinking. Is that really all it is?
Who knows?
Who knows is right. It's very fishy.
It's very.
Let's just leave it at that.
It's very on the DL.
The Browns know what they're doing as far as keeping this quiet. And the Browns have had a nightmare of an offseason already with Josh Gordon running into trouble again, which maybe he didn't even do anything wrong. If you read his own words, if you read the article that he posted, he doesn't even seem like that bad a guy.
And you have the GM
who knows if he's
texting
lying.
in plays
That I don't care about that.
Like
I don't think that matters at all.
The
I think
Cleveland Browns have been under fire this offseason.
Right, that's true.
What it comes
but
down
if you're going to talk about the text thing, just real quick, who cares?
No.
There are headsets everywhere. There's communication everywhere.
No, I'm just
if
saying,
he happened to use his cell phone, who cares?
I'm just saying, like, that's one thing that they, like, just to
why is that a
talk
rule?
about,
I don't even know why that's a rule.
I don't know, but I'm just talking, like, issues that are going on with the Cleveland Browns. Like, that's one that's brought up. That's one that's being investigated. Like, all
The
these
NFL is
things.
partnered with Verizon. They probably would embrace guys using Verizon phones on the sidelines.
It's probably because he was using T-Mobile.
That's what it was. He had T-Mobile and he was texting to a guy with Sprint. Can't have this. Can't have this in the NFL.
But anyway, going into the offseason, like, potential draft picks, do you think Winston's going to go one overall?
I think there's a pressure for Tampa Bay to pick him first overall to keep him in Florida, and I think there's a real chance that he'll stay in Florida. But I also think something that no one's talking about, and no one could talk about because no one knows, is the tricks up Chip Kelly's sleeve that he's going to do to get Marcus Mariota. I think he'd be willing to give up a fair amount. I don't think he'd go. He's not a type of guy that's going to do something ridiculous like the Redskins did to get RG3. They're not going to give up a ton of
look at
draft
how well
picks.
that worked out for
It
him.
failed miserably. And I feel bad for RG3.
The Rams won that trade, in my opinion.
Right. But I think that the Eagles would be smart to do what they can to get Mariota. Even if he's drafted by another team and there's a trade later.
Like the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers trade.
Something like that. That was a little different because Eli had already said that he didn't want to be a Charger, and the Chargers drafted him with the intent of trading him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure anyone that drafts Mariota is going to want to trade him. I think that Chip Kelly should do whatever he can to get Mariota because you don't have to teach him anything. He knows the offense.
He knows the system.
He knows the system. If you want to talk about a young quarterback that has the ability to make an immediate impact, and we've been spoiled by luck. And I think RG3 had that one really good year as a rookie.
And Russell Wilson also.
Wilson's different. Wilson does has so much help in other places. But I think Andrew Luck ultimately is a guy who's made the most immediate impact and put the most on his shoulders. That doesn't happen that much. Russell Wilson's immediate success is distorted by the fact they have an unbelievable team. And RG3's immediate success is officially taken a step back by where his career has gone and the injuries and everything that's unfortunately happened to the man. Mm-hmm. But that class was very rare. I mean, people compare quarterback classes like the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Big Ben class. Like very few of those guys made immediate impacts. Big Ben had a great second year, but rookie struggles used to be like a thing that everyone expected, and I think we're getting back to that because defenses are getting better secondaries, even though there are more rules favorable to the offense. I think quarterbacks have to learn how to play at this level in this league. But a guy that can learn the fastest, especially if he's with the Eagles, is Marcus Mariota, especially with the uncertainty of the quarterback situation in Philadelphia. I mean, I think Mark Sanchez is going to want to get out of there.
I think he's going to wind up in Buffalo.
Maybe reunite with Rex. I mean, that seems to be the idea that a lot of people expect.
Buffalo needs a quarterback. I think it's either going to be Sanchez or Josh McCown that winds up in Buffalo.
And Nick Foles, you can't discredit him in any way with Philadelphia. He's a great quarterback, but his health is an issue. He's never played a full season. So what kind of offer are you going to give him? Is someone going to be willing to overpay for him? And yes, they will because of that season that he had where he threw, I think, 24 touchdowns and two picks.
Interceptions.
Yeah, that season is going to give him a big, hefty payday elsewhere. So you don't know if maybe he's loyal to Philly. Maybe they've had conversations, but you still don't know as a business as where he's going to end up. So I think you have to have some sort of backup. Whether they draft Mariota or not, the Eagles have to acquire some sort of quarterback. The idea of Sanchez being happy with being a backup for an extended period of time does not seem likely to me, and the idea of Foles being healthy for a full season does not seem likely to me either. So, Chip Kelly, I think, my prediction, I've done great with predictions lately. Chip Kelly will do what he can to get Marcus Mariota.
So now, do you think that they'll try and trade for the first overall pick, or do you think that if Mariota does not go first, they try and trade up into 2 through 6?
It's so many different. It's exactly the last thing you said, like because you don't know what'll happen. Like after the first couple picks, there's a great chance of quarterbacks not being taken. Especially teams like the Raiders just got Derek Carr. They're probably gonna take Amari.
They're taking Amari Cooper.
Right.
I don't think there's any.
It's
doubt
basically a lock unless someone takes him higher.
The only in my opinion. Let's see, who has the first 5 picks, let's say. The first is the Bucks. I'm saying they either go Winston or Mariota. If they don't go Mariota, 2 through 6 are going to be very interesting.
Exactly.
because the Eagles will try and trade up. Number 2, you have.
But the Eagles aren't going to eagerly trade up without seeing how things pan out first.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 2, you have. I think that if the Eagles trade up, it will be to the 5th pick because
possibly
2 through 4 probably aren't 2 through 5 probably aren't looking quarterback. The first team that might look to take a quarterback is the Jets at 6.
You don't even know because no one can ever know what's going on throughout the entirety of the draft. The Eagles can be in communications with other teams already, saying, "Hey, pick Mariota, and we'll give you all of this, or we'll give you this, probably a couple players that are currently on their roster now, along with a couple of picks." I can see them trading 4 guys, 2 current players, 2 draft picks to get someone like Mariota, and it would probably be worth it.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at 2, you have Tennessee Titans. If they're drafting to just keep their player, they're not going quarterback. You just got Zach Mettenberger last year. Yes, he got hurt. They're not taking him.
Yeah.
You go to 3. I don't know who has the 3rd pick right now. I think it's I can't think of who has the 3rd pick.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank as well.
It might be the Falcons. No, it's not the Falcons.
No, it's not. No,
might be, I don't know. But 3rd pick, I just know that it's not looked to take it's not panning out to be a quarterback. 4th, you have the Raiders. Amari Cooper makes sense. They need that receiver to, give Derek Carr his insurance. You go to 5. I can't remember who's at 5 either. But then you go to 6, and that's the Jets. The Jets, there's talks of them possibly taking a quarterback because everyone's canning Geno Smith already. I still have some faith in Geno Smith. He was able to pull an 8-8 season out his rookie year when no one expected them to do anything. Yeah, this year wasn't good, but they had no secondary.
I think the Jets should not take a quarterback.
I think the quarterback is the last thing that they should take because you need an offensive line to protect them.
You can't just keep taking quarterbacks.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't have a quarterback without players around him. They just released Chris Johnson, so you have Chris Ivory in the backfield and Bilal Powell. I mean, will they look to get C.J. Spiller? I know that's been a huge topic.
Could also draft it back late.
They could also draft
these days.
2nd, 3rd round because
I think
running back draft stock has drastically dropped.
I can see the Jets getting someone like Fitzpatrick or Brian Hoyer. Those are the 2 best quarterback options, I think, from the free agent market. And I think Fitzpatrick is, for some reason, the Bills and Jets are just trading teams. So I think Fitzpatrick, the former Bill, will end up as a Jet, possibly.
And Mark Sanchez, the ex-Jet, possibly ended up in the Bills.
Fitzpatrick's one of those guys who isn't really a star, but always have a job because he's smart. And I think he can really help Geno. If they really want to commit to Geno, they have to answer these questions. Are they fully committed to Geno? No one knows. Are they going to have a replacement for the start of the year? No one knows. There's no certainty. You can't win unless you have certainty as to who your guys are. You just need to work on that.
And I think their biggest issues are going to be their offensive line. DeBrickashaw Ferguson and is getting a little older. He's been on a little bit of a decline. Nick Mangold, I think, is the only guy on the offensive line that's, he's your guy for the next few years, definitely. Your guards are both question marks. Your right tackle is a question mark. I mean, the only, if you had to keep 2 guys from this line, it's going to be Nick Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. The other 3, you're not really sure on them. I mean, Brandon Giacomini, they brought in from the Seahawks last year. He was all right. He was serviceable. The key word I use to the Jets' offensive line is they were serviceable. Like, they were able to kind of pick up their assignments, but at the same time, not even.
Other than the only one I like is Mangold.
Yeah, as I said, Mangold is the one guy that you're sticking with. The other 4 are almost expendable at this point.
Exactly. And the Giants, speaking of offensive lines, the Giants officially released David Wilson because they've been paying him for the whole year, who had a tragic career-ending injury. And they signed a CFLer, a lineman there, center named Brett Jones.
He was the best offensive lineman in the Canadian Football League last year.
Yes, the Calgary Stampeders. They won the Grey Cup. He helped lead them there. In one season he was there. He helped them win. And there are a couple things you have to remember about the CFL is, one, defensive linemen line up a yard off the ball. So they're gaining more momentum. And also, if it's a run block, offensive linemen have more of a chance to pick up speed. So I think a lot of the time CFLers are good to block for running plays, but not as used to blocking
for passing. It's very quick.
Yes, and they usually have that where they get their backs arched, and that's bad. So I think that he's an experiment. I don't think he has a lot of money, but I also think that the Giants have 3 potential centers. J.D. Walton was a disappointment the entirety of this season, but Weston Richburg, rumor has it they're going to move him to center, and then they have a lot of potential moves they can make on the offensive line. Because the offensive line is arguably still getting better with some of their younger guys, but they also could acquire a guy or two. I mean, hopefully Jeff Schwartz play more than 2 games. That's the hope. But the Giants' offensive line is at least hopefully heading in the right direction. This is
Pugh and
this is
everyone
a fun
like
signing.
that.
They probably move Pugh to guard, and have Beatty start at left tackle, hammer out the details, and get this offensive line hopefully with a formation that can stick, because they had so many injuries that they were constantly moving guys. So
now, when you look at the free agency market, who do you think the Giants are going to be singling in on? Are they going to have a big free agent signing, you think, this year?
I don't think they're going to go as crazy as they did last year, because they still have a lot of guys hanging around. But I also think that any sort of big man they can acquire to help up front on both sides of the ball will be good. But the biggest concern with Giants' impending free agency is whether they're going to bring back Antrel Rolle, which I think the rumor is they're going to. I could see them doing a 1 or 2 year deal for Rolle for the sake of, I think he's not done. Even though he showed a little slight declination this year, I think he could still do better. And probably franchise tag JPP, because they're not ready to give him a huge payday. They're not sure if he deserves it or not, because he was so oddly up and down last year. He didn't show up for the big division games. That's a big reason why I don't think he's going to get paid a lot of money if he stays with the Giants. But JPP might get tagged, and they'll just keep him for what they currently have for an extra year.
They keep him for a year, and then if they decide...
reevaluate the situation.
I think that's the best case scenario for them.
I agree. So they'll odds are JPP and Rolle can both be Giants next year. But only at the price that they're willing to do. The Giants are willing to do so.
And so you don't think they're really going to be looking to free agency that much? Is really big men?
Depends. I mean, Cruz is so uncertain coming back, and I think they might want to get a wideout. And Larry Fitzgerald's probably too much money, but the idea of him being on any team is exciting. I haven't heard many rumors. I think they're mostly going to stick to the big men and any type of. They really should. I'd be more of a fan of them rebuilding through this year's draft, but I also think that there are some voids that they should look to fill in. I think maybe get a veteran safety be good, because Quentin Demps and Stevie Brown were bad last year, and so they need someone to help it. That was a big reason why Rolle didn't look as good.
I know Laurent Landry is a free agent this year.
That'd be great. It'd be great. So I'd love to see Laurent Landry as a Giant. He's a big hitter. So
I think that he actually got released. So, and you said there's not a lot of rumors with the Giants. On the other hand, there's a lot of rumors with the Jets.
Of course there is.
There's always a lot of
rumors.
rumors.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones is that Cromartie wants to reunite with Todd Bowles, and according to Patrick Peterson, all that Antonio Cromartie talks about is New York. So there's one for you right there. I
think that's a mistake.
Then we all know that Woody Johnson has said that he wants to bring Darrelle Revis back, even if he said it at a bad time. C.J. Spiller wanted to play for Chan Gailey. That's 3 right there.
That was another rumor. The Giants actually talked about C.J. Spiller as well.
And I mean, I think C.J. Spiller would be a good fit for the Jets, because you got Chris Ivory, who can hit hard and keep running.
Teams need backs. He's good for any team.
Yeah. The only issue would be his health. Like, you're very questionable of his health. And I mean, with the Jets releasing Chris Johnson, obviously they're going to be looking to be getting another running back somewhere along the line. Did they release him to make room for Spiller? Who knows? I mean, free agency doesn't start until March, so we still have a few weeks before we're talking about who's signing where. Right. I know a lot of times head coaches like to bring some of their old players with them if they sign with the team. Like when Rex Ryan came to the Jets, the first day of free agency, he was on Bart Scott's front doorstep.
Right, and I'm pulling up the draft order just so we can have some sort of clarity before we go.
Yeah.
But I want to see that top 5, because I'm drawing a blank on the 3rd as well.
Yeah, 3rd.
I want to say a lot of NFC South teams are in the top 10, obviously. But let's look at some mock drafts real quick.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the draft, what are you seeing the Giants possibly going first in their first round pick? I think the Redskins are at 3 or 5.
Right, that's true. But any sort of back, any sort of big man, any sort of offensive lineman, I think, would be something they could look into.
I know Brandon Scherf is a big one that is being talked about for them.
Right. I think so as well. So we have
3 was the Jaguars, and 5 was the...
That's 2 years in a row the Jaguars are at the 3rd pick. That's where they got Bortles last year. And 5's the Redskins.
5's Redskins.
Right. Now it all makes sense. And in this draft, from Iowa, they have Brandon Scherf. The Giants.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of Brandon Scherf possibilities for the Giants. I think that he'd be good because they need offensive line.
Let's just tease this ridiculous idea. It won't happen. But let's just for fun before we go. The last thing that I want to say today is if for some divine reason Amari Cooper falls, and the Giants magically have Odell Beckham Jr. and Amari Cooper on the same roster, you have to take him. You have to. Regardless of the fact that your offensive line needs development, you have these two guys. That compensates for so much of lack of offensive line skill. Eli can do 2-step drop fades all day. And I think it'd be something really,
You really think he might fall down to them?
No, I don't. But I think that if the Raiders don't take him, this has the Jets taking him in this rumor. But I don't see the Bears or the Falcons taking him.
No, because the Bears have no receivers, so do the Falcons.
I can see either 4, 5, 6 are his. If he gets past 6, he could get to 9. Yes. But 4, 5, 6 is
where
Raiders, Redskins, Jets. 3 possible takers.
3 teams that.
3 teams that will. So
and where does this?
If there's a miracle.
And where does this mock draft have Mariota going that you're looking at? Because I see it has Winston at number 1.
That's true.
Does it have him dropping all the way to the Eagles?
They have him at 18.
To
Kansas City.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, this is stupid. Whoever made this, no offense, Mr. Bucky Brooks. I like most of it, but I don't think that.
I don't think Mariota's dropping 18.
I think we all agree.
But anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here?
I hope the Islanders can stay in first place, and I hope that despite all our negative statements in baseball, that you have that magical spring feeling. Doesn't matter, even though you have all these things in the back of your mind, everyone's 0-0. It's a cold winter. There's something magically poetic about the first warm spring day, home openers. It's not that far. It's going to be fun. Baseball is important, and we appreciate it more because of these snowy days that we've been having a lot of.
Well, you heard it here first. So I hope that some of these rumors come into fruition.
Yeah, you heard it here first that Marcus Mariota is going to be an Eagle next year.
But comment below if you have any ideas of anything we talked about. And until next time, we're the Super Sports Bros. See you next week.